Coming up on today's Back to Paranormal, we're going to be talking about one of the creepiest and most haunted forests in all the world. It's in Romania, and it is Hoia Baciu. Coming up today on the Back to Paranormal podcast. Well, welcome to this week's episode of Back to Paranormal, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host,
Marjorie.
It's Marjorie.
Hello.
And who the heck am I? I forgot.
The handsome fellow on my right-hand side.
This is Brian.
Brian.
Yes, and so we are back. We are back. How are you doing? How are you doing today? You look so lovely.
I do?
You do. You always look great. Yeah.
Thank you. I think it's the fresh air and the autumn and the chill in the air, and you get that extra vim and vigor. I'm no longer melting and then freezing my tail off in the air conditioning.
That's right. It's the end. It's almost the end of September, which is crazy.
It's crazy. Where did September go?
It is, but we're having fun.
We are,
and we're enjoying the change of seasons.
I love it. I love it.
We are.
It also means my birthday's over, and I have a whole year to enjoy.
It's long over. Yes. Well, we were celebrating for a long time, though.
We did.
We were. Mm-hmm. Anyway, normally before we do the show, we're going to be talking about this forest, and it is in Romania, and I guess the part where it's considered Transylvania.
It is.
It's
in the
legends.
Transylvanian region of Romania. It's just outside, ironically, outside the sort of unofficial capital of which is commonly known as Transylvania, Cluj-Napoca. Mm-hmm. It has a lot going on.
It does. Has some history, too. All these wonderful stories. We're going to delve into that in a minute. Just to recap from last week, we were doing our show. We opened it up with, normally we have a drink, and this week is no different. So we're going to have a little drink in a minute, but we had some Winterstern beer, which is an imported beer.
That 99 cent.
It's a 99-cent deluxe model. Uh-huh. And one of our listeners actually informed me. They said, you drank it, but you didn't say anything about it, whether you liked it or not.
It's for 99. It's halfway decent.
It's a halfway decent beer.
It's a halfway decent lager.
Yeah, it's not
a German lager.
Yeah, and you get a little bit more than a normal bottle. I think a bottle is 12 ounces. It's like 17 ounces. So, for 99 cents, we splurged.
The point was we were talking about orbs, and a lot of people just dismiss them, and that's fine.
Yes.
But there are some times when you just can't walk by and just dismiss it like it's nothing. So I said, let's not dismiss this because I think it's 99 cents.
99 cents, yeah.
Give it a good crack.
Yeah, and I think if you have a good number of those beers in a row, you'll be seeing orbs with no problem.
You have
along with pink
99
elephants.
bottles of 99-cent
beer
on the wall.
That's right. But anyway, the sad part of this story is basically
immediately after we.
I don't know if they discontinue. We cannot find the beer, and either the company's going to thank us or no.
Are we the only ones?
Yeah, there's none around. We cannot find them. I think I picked up the last 4.
It's not pulling its weight on the shelves.
I don't know.
It's not worth the real estate.
Yeah, I hope they bring it back because it was a really good 99-cent beer. Maybe it'll be a really good $1.09 beer in the future. I don't know.
It was just spending 99 cents, $1 on a beer. It just threw me back to like the days when I was, too young to be drinking, had no money, hanging out in the woods, camping with friends, and that was what.
That's what it was.
We would have.
That was the deal.
But tonight is different. Tonight,
because we don't have Winterstern because we can't find it.
Not drinking it anymore.
But no, it was a good beer. We liked it. I liked it. It had a little bit of an edge to it. But anyway, what are we having tonight? Because we're doing the show about the haunted forest.
Most haunted forest in the world, located in Romania. So Romanians, they like
Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu. God God bless you.
Thank you. No, what's the name of the forest?
Hoia Baciu.
Hoia Baciu. Okay.
So they drink, they make actually from the Moldovan region of Eastern Europe, they do make some very good wines.
Okay.
And they do like their wine. They do drink beer, but one thing that is kind of like more the national thing is they like the fruit brandies. So pear, plum, sour cherry. They make a lot of liqueurs out of cherries and fruits. So tonight we have blackberry brandy.
Ooh.
Yeah. And we're going to wash it down with a very dark beer.
A very dark beer. Oh, okay. Here we go. Okay.
Boop.
1, 2, 3. Boop. Oh, there we go. Do I do that every time we?
You always do the countdown.
I do the countdown, but I always do. I'm like shocked that we're.
And then you act surprised. But you're the one who did the countdown to prepare everybody.
I do the countdown. We clink the glasses, and then I'm surprised. I'm surprised over the fact that it made a noise. Woohoo! We were not drinking before this, by the way. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna
fruit brandy in honor of Romania.
There we go. One more. No shout out on that one.
Boop.
Boop. Here we go.
Oh man,
that's really good. I'd like to freeze that in a pop form, and
I think it won't freeze though,
because
that's a lot of alcohol. I feel literally I have very fair skin. I think my cheeks are already purple.
I think they are.
Okay, that's very sweet and very strong.
Okay, I think we should get into the show. I think we should.
I need to wash it
because we got people out there and they say, "Okay, get on with it. Get on with it." You know, we like you, but hey,
let's keep it moving.
Keep it moving.
We?
Okay, so we did. We've heard about this place before, and this forest basically, it's about 700 acres, right? And the trees, everything is all the vegetation is kind of like kind of screwy. I guess that's the best way of putting it. Literally, where, trees kind of like bend at right angles, almost like a right angle, and they kind of head toward the ground again. And I think they've had, I think the mushrooms even look inverted, all these mushrooms, because it doesn't get a lot of light in the thick of it. And but there is a point in the center where there is a clearing, and it's like a round clearing. It's almost like a spaceship like a giant spaceship landed in it. And nothing grows there
except grass.
That's it. But it's like somebody cleared it, but nobody cleared it. This has just basically been like this.
Very dense forest, and it's also full of like very strong trees like poplar, ash, elm, etc. Usually, to get these trees are twisted as though they were being wrung out like a garment, and then bent slightly. The inclination is going back towards the earth, almost as if someone is like in wrestling when they're
like they're shaping
wrestling them back down to the ground and twisting. Usually for stronger trees with a tighter cell structure. I used to do woodworking in my past life, and they have to be alone in the middle of a meadow all by themselves, subjected to years and years of wind and rain, and in order to get that twisted. This is a very dense forest.
Right.
And then sort of towards the center, there's this ovoid shape that is devoid entirely of trees.
Right.
And for a forest that's only 700 acres, it's very small to have so much going on.
Right.
It's really amazing because it's pretty much everything but Bigfoot.
Yeah, I mean, people have claimed that they're UFOs that have flown, or what do they call them? UFIs, or
like aerial phenomena.
Yeah.
And primarily in like illuminated form.
In illuminated form, they see orbs in there. They see strange lights. There's stories of people that have gone in and have not come out. It's a 700-acre area. To give you an idea of how much 700 acres is,
Three.
how big is Central Park? Central Park is...
more than that.
It's more than 700 acres?
It?
I don't know. We should look that up.
Maybe you're right. Maybe it's about twice the size of Central Park. It's like it reads 3 square kilometers.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah. So it's not huge.
It's not big.
It's not big.
As
no.
forests go, it's 700 acres is not a lot.
No, but like
there's so much going on in there, and people go in and
they can't find their way out.
They can't find their way out, and they go in, and when they do come out, they've had a significant amount of time that has elapsed that they were unaware of.
I think that I don't know if that happens to everybody, but there are people who have come out that basically feel like they were there for 5 minutes and it's been hours or days. And there's an old story, which, we don't know if this is true or not, but it was a story of a girl about 5 years old.
If I may, Baciu is the name of a shepherd over 200 years ago who led his whole entire flock of sheep
200 sheep
into the forest,
right,
and just disappeared. Now, I don't know, maybe he had a fight with his old lady and he said, me and my flock, we're going to mosey on down the road.
I'm going to get the flock out of here and get into the
And he just said, I'm done. I'm never coming back.
Right.
But they named the forest after him. And then there is another tale, and this has not been corroborated by any fact, but the little girl who...
So, no, a little girl she wandered into the forest, and then she kind of disappeared. They sent groups of people in to try to find her. They couldn't find her. And then 5 years later, she wandered out with the same clothes. Hadn't really aged that much. And basically, she thought she had just disappeared for a few moments. She thought that she just went in there for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. They came out. So that's one of the legends. There's a lot of weird stuff. People who go in there now, who go in during the day, it's kind of like there are areas that basically all of a sudden it kind of gets very, very dark because it's so dense. But, even when there's light, they're walking through, all of a sudden it kind of covers over and it just becomes very dark in the area.
Ominous.
Yes. And there are people who have stayed overnight or part of the night, and they go in and they hear weird noises. They hear cries. They hear somebody singing, a woman singing, a lot of different things. It's definitely considered one of the most haunted areas in the world. And, we kind of looked at a lot of different things to kind of see, how we felt about it. And,
I think the thing that really struck me the most was the fact that there were these, because we just talked about orbs, last week.
Yes.
And people would take photographs of the forest, and then when the photographs were developed, their orbs would show up that they hadn't seen with the naked eye. Mm-hmm. And I find that to be interesting. And a lot of these are either saucer-shaped illuminations or orb-shaped. They're round in some way. They can be in clusters. They could be all alone. Mm-hmm. But various different people have had this happen, and I just find that fascinating.
Yeah, what's really interesting is there's always around the world there's always a story about the lady in white. You've heard this.
Oh yeah, we've talked about
this on our expedition,
Sweet Hollow
Road a few weeks ago. And this seems to be a story that just like appears everywhere. It's like somebody driving down a road, and then there's somebody walking on the side of the road, and it's a woman in white, and then somehow they try to approach the person and they disappear or something, some weird stuff. But anyway, that phenomenon has also been part of the legend here. Mm-hmm. Is this lady in white? So. A lot of weird stuff. There was also another story about basically a bunch of villagers being slaughtered. This may be about 200 years ago. Now, in that forest, so there's just a lot. There's a lot of legends and and stories about this place. And,
Well, no, actually, I think it was the native people who lived there, the Dacians, who were slaughtered.
Yes.
But that was like 6,000 years ago.
Oh, I thought it was 200 years ago.
There's so many. Okay, there are so many different stories about this that even we're having a hard time keeping it all.
I'm having a hard time. I think it's this brandy.
It's the brandy. Do I dare polish off my last slug?
Yeah, maybe you'll agree with me after that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You're right. I'm up with that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people focus on the light phenomena, the aerial phenomena, the voices, the cackling, chuckling, very loud footsteps, and then people look and there's no one there. People getting lost, time loss, coming out with complete memory loss.
Yeah.
And now that you speak about the Dacians, this is probably one of the Neolithic, like early tribes that inhabited this area.
Sorry about these noises.
That's okay. It's about the culture the archaeological findings that were done between the 60s and the 90s. These archaeological expeditions to this forest were really spurred on by, in the late 50s and the 60s, people were going in there and taking photographs, and a gentleman named Emil Barnea came out with the UFO, the saucer.
Now, but this was what, within the last...
That was in 1968.
That's right.
And that started people thinking, okay, we really need to kind of look into this forest a little more. And they were digging up artifacts that go way, way, way back. And so I kind of looked a lot into this. And one thing that I found was and I just, going back to the barren meadow in the center.
Yes.
I have a theory about that.
Okay.
But we'll circle back to that because it is odd. But
it is odd.
There are meadows in forests, and it's not unheard of. But they started digging up things. They realized the culture is way, way, way old. Now, all across the globe, you have, archaeologists and historians and people from certain areas of the world. If they're from West Africa, they're convinced Atlantis was here. Atlantis was in West Africa. If you meet a Cretan, nope, it was Crete. Hands down, Crete was Atlantis. And they all get all emboldened. And you even have some people from Iceland saying, and in Scotland, they're like, no, there was an island way north that's no longer there. Everybody thinks Atlantis is where they live. And that's fine. We can all partake in this idea. And Plato did write about it. And what I found interesting was that the very quiet theory is that Cluj-Napoca, which is the city outside this forest, the Dacians who lived there, they believe their beloved ancestors were the highly technologically advanced individuals who built Atlantis. And the reason they feel that their theory is, and I find this very interesting because if you think about it literarily, if that's a word, about the concept of Atlantis and how highly technologically advanced the people who inhabited that place were considered to be, is that there is this capability to time travel by one's ability to reach their astral formation, their astral.
Now, what does that mean to the layman out in the audience?
That their being is not purely cemented in this shell of the body.
Yeah.
They can travel without the need of a ship. I don't know where they want to go to their original planet. I don't know. But
can I explain a little bit about that?
I would love it if you would, because I need that. I'm going to take a sip of this dark beer.
Yeah, the dark beer. It's waiting for you. I just had a sip. So anyway, what that means, there's a term called astral projection, which is basically you go to sleep at night, and a lot of people believe that you
have accused me of doing this in the past.
You can actually leave your body. Your soul can leave your body. It can go to different places. It can go to different times. And it's attached by a silver cord. Now, it's not like an Apple cord or something that you attach to your iPod. It is basically this invisible cord that remains attached to your body as you go.
You spoke about it
Yeah.
a little bit with psychic medium Jennifer Ann.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so it's a very interesting phenomenon, and basically what you're talking about here is that these beings are coming here by astral projection, and so that's what that is all about. And some people believe that they can do it. You know?
I have a very, very dear friend whom I love and adore, and I have loved him for years, and he says that this time travel is something that happens to him, and
Yeah.
it's never happened to me, but I believe him.
I believe it's happened to me when I was young,
Oh,
where I actually went somewhere, and basically, you know, some people call them flying dreams. You know, you have this flying dream, but I believe I went to like a different place in a different time, in this realm. So, is that right? Yeah, I guess so.
I feel I have had dreams, but not that are like, but that are from me, but from a different life.
Yeah, a lot of people believe that before you
Because
get to
I go there I've been there, and it's always the same, and it's more vivid than any other dream that
Right.
I've ever had. I call it my place dreams.
yeah,
And then when I have to wake up, I'm devastated.
you're devastated because you want to stay there.
I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those dreams are astral dreams. I think they are. You're going to this place, or you're going to this different time, or maybe you're going to heaven, maybe you're going to the ultimate place, and it's just for a visit, you know. But I think a lot of young people, I think a lot of children. Have these type of dreams, because a lot of people believe that children are kind of, you know, because they're incarnated in this body, that they are still somehow connected. And we've talked about this on other podcasts, but by the time they're like 7, 8, 9, that's kind of like beaten out of them mostly. And sometimes I think Jennifer Ann, who we had on our show, you know, about a month ago, a little bit over a month ago.
Thank goodness it didn't get beaten out of her. 'Cause
No.
it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think some people retain a lot of it,
Yeah.
are able to retain a lot of it. And so, you know, but that's what you're
Reminds
talking
me
about.
of when
Yeah.
Tom Hanks said to his son in Sleepless in Seattle, he's like, "How do you know all this stuff?" to his little 7-year-old kid. And he looks at his dad and he's like, "Dad, it's because I'm younger and my heart's more pure." And I love that part.
I think that's, I think that kind of says it, you know.
It's true.
But-
It's true.
But yeah, but
I find-
astral beings in this place, I think that's very interesting.
I found that to be very interesting. But then when we continue to learn more about this, and we read about this scientist named Adrian Petrut, who did a tremendous, very, very in-depth investigation into this forest, where there has been chronicled a tremendous amount of electromagnetic activity. Nothing harmful, but
Right.
enough that would really set off monitors and he's taken photographs and he's seen the light beings that are in there. There are various different types of them.
Right.
And Petrut also said that he'd been to the forest so many times and he'd taken extensive photography. One time he made a visit there and he found these old ancient ruins.
That's
And he
right.
took photographs of it. He was with a group of other scientists. They all photographed it. And when they went back into the forest again to find these ruins and do a little more work and investigate, maybe take some, masonry samples, etc.,
They couldn't find it.
they couldn't find it anywhere.
Wow.
How do you lose a building? I mean, can you lose a building in Central Park?
Sure. Why not?
I don't think so. Then he
Yeah.
also said, and this is really fascinating, he said it over the years, it just, the photograph stayed the same, but the ruins gradually the image of them disappeared from the actual physical photograph.
Wow, that's pretty weird.
And so that goes back to this theory about that area being the original host to Atlantis and these Dacian people who knew how to transport themselves.
That's really interesting.
I think it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's kind of it's just so weird because it's like, you hear about these stories and, and a photograph, I remember watching, what was it? It was Back to the Future. And it's like Michael J. Fox, he's looking at a photo of himself.
Gosh, that's right.
And because he goes back in time and if he screws up what's happening there, he's going to be basically gone.
Marty.
Yeah, Marty. And so he's looking at the photo of himself. He has this photo of himself and he starts to disappear. Yeah.
Especially when Biff comes into the picture and is manhandling the mom, the girl, the mom.
The mom, yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in motion pictures that kind of, there are these things that they kind of throw in that are based off of things that have really happened.
Yeah. Or a derivation of,
Yeah, and it's amazing how it's a reflection on the real world.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In a fictitious, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, isn't that interesting though? Yeah.
I'm really glad you remembered that.
Yeah.
Because I would not have. I get very frustrated by that movie because when he comes back, he does come back to his personal present and he sees himself screaming out, "Oh no, they shot flux capacitor because the Libyans." Okay. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but he sees himself.
Everybody has seen this movie. I'm sorry.
It infuriates me because you cannot there is only one.
Right.
I remember I was at a Christmas party and we had been drinking, and this was many years ago, and I was talking to a friend about why I was so frustrated with Back to the Future.
Right.
And when back in the old days when it's a record playing and then the record stops and there's that brief until the next song comes on.
I would say about 20% of our audience knows all right,
whatever.
That.
It was the song, the music was really, really loud, guys. And I'm yelling at this one friend, Ken Taberski. And I was like, I know, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. And right as the music stopped and it's dead silent, I'm screaming, there can be only one Michael J. Fox. And like, I see this whole party of heads just
turn
around and they whooped around and looked at me. And I was like, because I guess at that time Michael J. Fox wasn't so cool, and and I was like, not that I really love Michael J. I had to.
That's one of
those moments.
It's an interesting moment.
I digress. Hoia Baciu.
But you know what I want to. But what I do want to say, there's a lot of stuff that cannot be explained, and there are things that. There's all these different things that kind of are inserted every day, which kind of changes that whole landscape. You know what I mean?
I laugh at you when you're not funny.
I wasn't trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? But no, I'm serious. There are things that are introduced all the time.
I think that's a funny story that I told.
I think it's a great funny story.
Okay, well, you could have laughed.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I'm sorry.
As you were saying, my love.
No, I was just saying that there is all this stuff that's coming up about all these different things, and you can't really explain everything away all the time.
I agree.
Okay, and that's my point. I know it's very vague, but it's like, you'll get scientists that come out, that's impossible, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And so, this is...
Like what you're saying is lend an ear, to just dismiss everything outright.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't figure it out or you don't want to deal with it.
I think there are things that are beyond us that we'll never be able to explain why things happen, why certain things happen. And I think science is trying to, I've said this before on the podcast, that they're constantly trying to put stuff into a box and say, that's impossible, that cannot happen. And then all of a sudden they find out, oh, no, it can. And then it opens up another world, but then they're quick to try to contain that.
Well, what's interesting is it's very much like what Eben Alexander, and we talked about him, and he said, actually, the truth is our consciousness as we have it here in this earthly life that we have dumbs down our senses and our intelligence. It's a filter.
Right. Well, there you go. We're getting a knocking of a cable over here, so it's not something we're doing. It's just you'll hear a knock. It's almost like somebody knocking on a door. It's like knock, knock, like that. Oh. But, but I'm not really doing anything here. Neither are you.
No, I'm not.
No. So back to Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu. Okay, my theory about the small meadow, the clearing that's in the center of this forest, and people keep going on and on and on. It has to be aliens. It has to be a UFO landed here, and that's where they land, and what have you. Here, I think that this is it's such a dense forest, and trees, and they're all connected.
They are,
and they communicate. So they will kill off a tree that will want to grow there.
Yeah.
Or the tree will just voluntarily pass away because they all communicate, and that's their cistern, that's their well.
Right. Yeah, that's something.
Because what they said was as you get closer to the clearing, the distortions in the trees and the size of the trees, the thickness,
right,
and the anomalies of the trees.
Yeah.
I think it's your foot tapping the cable.
I'm gonna.
I think that's.
I'm gonna do this and see if this works. It's crazy. It's just a little cable. It's just knocking around like crazy. I don't know. Okay, how's it feel now? We knocking around? No, we're good.
We're good.
I fixed it.
Daddy fixed it.
Daddy fixed it.
So
So
my theory is that that's the well for their drinking supply.
Okay. Yeah.
The trees in the forest.
Yeah.
Yes, because they communicate and they have an intelligence and they've evolved over millennia.
I believe that's true. I believe these plants and trees do communicate.
Yeah, because they're hardwood trees, and so they have a very tight cellular structure. So they're not so much of a wick, but they need that perpetual
the support.
I don't think you're into what I'm saying. You're more interested in the cable knocking around.
No. I'm trying to correct something, but hey, I'm the technical guy when it comes to this stuff. But I'm listening. But we're letting the audience know about this, about all this stuff. How do you feel about this? I mean, look, this place is in Romania. We're nowhere close. We've not gone there. We're just basically going by other people's accounts. So
I think a lot of people come away from this forest saying the ghosts that exist there are the ones you bring in there with you. And I think that's one way of looking at it. I'm certainly not going to be there, dismissing any of it, but I'm not also going to accept all of it.
Yeah.
Like if people don't know after 100 years, the name of the girl who disappeared and came back 5 years later and looked exactly the same. If there's no name, to attach to that, then it's maybe sort of just a panoply of a lot of stories where people have gone in and not come back. Yeah, I think that we've discussed many, many different ways in which spiritual energy can be channeled and perpetuated. Water, a strong source of or body of water being within the locale is one way.
Right.
Mineral content, like if you're in a very quartz-rich region, that's one. History, particularly traumatic history within a particular region, being something that would reverberate. It echoes throughout time. Okay, a good example of that would be the battlefield of Gettysburg, where people have definitely seen or just
apparitions,
horrific apparitions that seem trapped there in this horrible period of time. And
that's something we should probably do a field trip over there one day. I do
think we should do a field. Oh, and speaking of which, we do have to tell you we're taking a big field trip for next week's episode.
Well, we're not going to tell anybody what that is.
No, we're not telling you.
Have to tune in next week for that.
You do have to tune in next week because I'm very excited about it on a personal level.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited for me and for you because I think it's So we'll
have fun.
But we'll try to get some field interviews on that one.
But I also think that folklore and the repeating, like hearing, speaking, repeating the same folklore over and over and over about an area, it does make it real about a thing. And the immediate residents around this, the farmers who live around this forest, they all have a tremendous amount of reverence for the area. And that doesn't come from nowhere, but it is perpetuated in a certain way. For me, I think the most interesting phenomena about this forest would be aside from the trees that appear to be wrestled back down to the earth, would be the aerial light phenomena that are continually showing up in people's photographs and unexplained.
There is a belief that if you say something enough, somehow it will manifest, it will become real.
Yeah.
And I think
like Beetlejuice.
Something like that. Well, that's a movie, but no, I think there's some truth to that. I think if it's strong enough in your head, then somehow you kind of make things happen. And I've talked about this on other shows, but with this, people going in with the belief that there is something haunting this area, right? And that there's otherworldly phenomenon and I guess people, spirits haunting the area and orbs. I think you can kind of make that stuff happen. It's just kind of a weird phenomenon, but I believe it can happen. So I think if you go into a house and you think the house is haunted, you're going to find something in there that is going to basically prove that.
Well, I think that's also based upon one's perception.
That's true. Now we've watched a couple of different things where people have gone in and they've investigated. They were there the whole night, and these two people that went in, they were kind of camping out. And they started hearing things. They started hearing like a woman singing in the background. They heard children, and they're in the thick of this forest, and they were actually picking it up. You could hear it. You could hear it on their microphones. So I found that very fascinating. There was one thing that we were watching where basically they thought they saw some figures in the background, and the thing was that they kind of turned.
It was so spooky.
It was spooky, and it looked like there were three figures, shadow figures in the background. Then they kind of like went around to try to get a better view of this, and then all of a sudden these things kind of moved away. They kind of moved away
they just disappeared,
and basically it was debunked. And what it was actually leaves.
It was debunked by the very filmmaker herself.
Because she wanted to be authentic.
She didn't really take a close look at it, and I think she went like a year later. And God bless her, because she came out and it was like, no, it was leaves on the tip of a branch in the foreground.
Right.
Because they had no heat signature, so that was what was baffling her so much.
Yeah, they kept saying there's no heat to it, and then basically, well, then it has to be dead. Yeah.
And so there were shadow people. It really looked like that, though.
It did.
But one of the things I thought was interesting were the lights, and then they would go towards the light, and then there was nothing. You're thinking this is another individual doing exactly what we're doing at night in, Hoia Baciu, investigating hauntings.
That's right.
With a torch, and they would go towards, and there's nothing. And then they would hear, and you can hear, people can hear footsteps, like distinct footsteps walking on the earth. And then they look for all the cameras that they had.
That's right.
And see nothing. So,
Now, you were talking about a theory before.
yes.
You didn't go into that yet, right?
About the meadow?
Yes.
I did go into it.
You did talk about it.
Did I pour too much brandy in
I think you did. I think I'm loopy.
I did. I said
Okay.
I feel that that's the drinking source, that the trees within this forest have created that as their drinking source. That's their well.
Okay.
Because the trees that are so immediately around.
I think I blacked out.
I love you.
Yeah, that brandy was pretty strong, I think.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. And I'm drinking this dark beer, which is probably...
was to wash down the wickedness.
all right.
It's okay.
Am I making sense on this podcast?
You are making perfect sense.
Okay,
my
that's
love.
good. That's good.
I just,
Yeah. All right.
I just thought it was one idea. It's when that's what you do when you're really looking into these things. It's certainly not that I don't think this forest has hauntings.
Right.
I'm certain there are many spirits. It's over 6,500-year-old area where people have been living and dying for 6,500 years.
That is a very good point.
Okay.
It's a very good point.
Thank you for listening
But it's
to
like
that one.
No, I was listening to the whole thing. I'm just
Lord love you.
Okay, so what's your take on this place? Do you think that this is just people that, they're going in, they hear all the legends or whatever, and then they go in and they psych themselves out?
Their energy perpetuates that preconceived energy. Yes,
Right.
I think that happens. I am very, oddly enough, very open to the Atlantis theory. I don't know why. I think it's so out there that it actually could be really worth looking into.
It's a possibility.
It is a possibility.
That's kind of your saying, isn't it?
It is my saying.
It
And
is.
it's our saying.
It is. Anything's
It
a
is
possibility.
a possibility. It's absolutely a possibility. Until someone says it's absolutely not true, until they dredge up Atlantis from the Baltic Sea or the North Sea or West Africa or wherever else been claimed to be the host of that place, mythical or not.
Right.
But I also I don't think that having that little meadow in the middle of the forest is so bizarre. People make it out to be a lot more than it really is.
Well,
The soil might not just be very
Is
deep.
it wishful? Is it wishful thinking, or is it just?
I think it's trying to make something more than what it is.
Than
And
what
you
it
don't
is.
really need to gild the lily with this forest. I mean, if you go in there and you look at these trees,
Yeah,
I think that's enough to creep your average bloke out.
I think you're right about that. Well, okay. So you want to know my take on it?
Yes, I was just about to ask you.
I think there are things that do happen in there. The problem with this whole thing is basically you can't prove the thing about the little girl. It's basically you're going on all these stories,
folklore,
all the folklore, exactly.
Legends.
Yeah, and you're trying to make sense of it all. But I think when people do go in, they kind of investigate the area. I think any place that is dark, you can't see the moon, you're kind of like just hanging out in the area, and anything that happens, any noise, it could be from a bunny rabbit, just hopping around that you can't see, and you hear the noises in the background, and everything is amplified at night. When it's absolutely quiet, you hear everything.
Well, because your sight is so limited that you're suddenly, sort of
Reverting.
reverting to your audio.
That's right.
Capacity.
So any noise is going to sound amplified to you. And case in point, like when you go to sleep at night, like during the day, you don't notice anything really. It's almost like a toothache. You get a toothache during the day, and it's like you're able to deal with it because you have all these other distractions, even though you have the pain. Then you go to sleep at night, and it's basically that's all you're thinking about because there's no distractions. You're trying to get to sleep, and this thing is just throbbing. And I think the same thing happens with your ears. So, we often say on this podcast, we don't just accept everything. I don't doubt that there's probably some sort of activity that's going on in this place. But I believe the reality is that your imagination can really take over and really, like I said, exaggerate.
Yeah.
Sounds, and if you're already in the thinking that the place is haunted and you're expecting something to happen, something's going to happen. You're going to hear something, or you're going to see something that looks weird, or it's just, it's almost like you're waiting for it to happen. It's like you're on the edge,
Yeah.
And but if something legitimate happened, like somebody came glowing out of the woods walking, I'd like to hear that,
Yeah.
But
well, when you're a scientist who is working and operating under a communist regime in the 50s and the 60s, and you go in there and you take photographs, and you know that your job is at risk in an area that if you lose your job, there is no safety net for you whatsoever.
None.
And who's going to feed your great grandma?
Yeah, who?
Who, huh? And you still come forward anyway and show your photographs, and there's very interesting light phenomena going on there, and sort of bioforms that are going on in the film. I think that says a lot.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
in modern day, and you've never spent a night in a forest alone, let alone a haunted one, and you're like, hey guys, let's go to Hoia Baciu, and you go up in this very rugged terrain, and you're in your Levi's and your flat bottom Adidas sneakers, and you have no chance in hell if the demon is going to come after you. Probably going to snap your ankle 5 feet into the dense forest to begin with. Then that probably will be a scary situation for you.
Yeah, I think that all these things that happen, like people disappearing, happened ages ago, but there's no modern thing that has happened like that.
No, there was.
What was it?
There was a tour group. There was a tour guide leading a group.
Okay.
Through.
Yeah.
And
did he have a bunch of sheep with him?
Were all the guests going meh? No. No, there was a modern tour guide now because they know they can make a buck off of this thing.
Right.
And they're leading a whole group through at dusk. Yeah. And one gentleman turned behind and he saw the moon hovering over the trees. And there was something about this tree and the moon shining through it that really captivated him. And he lingered just a little bit too long.
Right.
And apparently he was just lucky enough that they moved on without him.
Right.
And he came to, like 15 minutes later, he ran to catch up with them, and he did actually find them.
Right.
And they were all like, where have you been? Where have you been? So there was obviously something that, and he was like, I just stopped for a second to look at a tree.
Right.
I didn't know that you were all moving on.
Right.
So there was something that drew him and held him.
Right.
In that space and time.
Spot. Yeah.
And he thought it was just a second or two.
Right.
And they were like, thank God we found you. We were going to start looking for you.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about this this whole thing is scientists have been through, they've tested the soil, they've, and basically did not find anything, no abnormalities in the soil.
No, not in the soil. No.
One of the theories, it has to do with sound in the area. Maybe sound had an effect, because there have been studies that basically they take sound and they affect water with it,
infrasound.
And it will basically form patterns and stuff like that. So there may be something that's emitting from the earth that has a certain sound to it that's affecting the people and the time and the trees and stuff like that, the vegetation. And
there are places like that
Yeah.
on the earth.
yeah.
Yeah.
There are abnormalities around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's about the vibes.
So what's the feeling? Would you go into this place? Would you go into Machu Picchu?
I would go to
Machu
Machu
Picchu,
Picchu.
or
I would go to Hoia Baciu.
Hoia Baciu.
Or Machu Picchu.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Do I really want to go in there at night by myself?
Absolutely.
Maybe.
No, I wouldn't want to do it.
Oh, I always have Christ.
Maybe I'll walk in a couple of 100 feet, then turn around and go back out. Maybe something like that. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know, because I think that it must be quite beautiful.
Probably is, but I'd be too chicken. I'd be yeah, I'd be too chicken, I think. No, because of all the stories or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, I say that because I'm here. I'm not over there. I mean, we braved the roads a couple of weeks ago over in the most haunted.
Them.
So, I guess maybe I'm not too chicken.
Mount Misery. No, you're not too chicken.
It wasn't a misery. It was fun.
And our field trip coming up this weekend, I think that you're very brave.
Oh, I'm very brave?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, they're going to have to find that out next week, because we're not going to tell them what it is. They're going to have to find out. But
Stay tuned.
But we are doing a road trip. We're doing an official road
Our
trip.
second field investigation.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. So, I like doing these podcasts with you because you're so pretty and you're great to talk to, and you're understanding when I fall asleep in the middle of the podcast.
Well, maybe I got a little boring, so
No.
Well, there are
No, I'm blaming it on the brandy. Blame it on
the alcohol.
Yeah, I'm blaming it on there. But anyway. So how do you feel about this place? What do you think about it?
I love doing this podcast with you.
Thank you.
You're my handsome.
Oh, you're my beautiful. Anyway.
I would love to go there someday, but I have so many other places that are really like on our bucket list.
You mean places that are really beautiful and...
Well, this place seems like it's beautiful. It's just...
It does, but it's a remote area.
It's in Transylvania.
Yeah, you have to go into Transylvania. Transylvania is not one of the places that I really want to go to. Not insulting anybody in Romania.
The architecture is quite beautiful.
Yes. Well, maybe one day we'll do it. We'll go there. We'll find out. Anyway, thank you for listening. I appreciate everybody tuning in.
Thank you for listening.
We've gotten some really nice comments about the show, I have to say, and we're going to try to make the shows better. And I think
we need to try to make these shows better for you all.
Yeah.
And you need to let us know.
Do you enjoy
how?
Yeah, good.
We need you to let us know how we can improve. How can we please you? Because I really enjoy doing this, and I don't want to stop.
No, I don't want to stop doing it. And I would just do that. I would honestly, I would just do these shows for the heck of just doing them because I enjoy doing them with you.
Me too.
And we have a lot of fun. So anyway, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll be back next week for another episode. And next week's episode should be interesting because we're going to be interviewing a bunch of people, hopefully. Yeah, stay tuned for next week. Come back next week for another episode of
Back to Paranormal.
Paranormal. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
God bless you.
God bless.